smoke over the Potomac did not clear in 1865. It thickened. The cannons leveling Washington were not just Confederate, they were British. This is the story of World War Zero, a timeline where one diplomatic telegram failed, turning the American Civil War into a global slaughter.
November 8, 1861. The USS San Jacinto intercepts the British ship Trent. In our world, cooler heads prevailed. Here, the captain fired a warning shot.
The shell killed 4 British sailors. News reached London 2 weeks later. Prime Minister Lord Palmerston did not write a protest. He drafted a declaration of war. Queen Victoria was told the Americans insulted the crown. Her silence was interpreted as consent. The Royal Navy began to mobilize against the Union.
By January 1862, the blockade was broken. British ironclads destroyed the wooden Union fleet off the coast of Virginia with terrifying ease.
Lincoln faced a nightmare. The Union Army, struggling in Virginia, now had to defend a 3,000-mile border with British Canada.
February 1862. 50,000 British regulars crossed the frozen St. Lawrence River. Their target was not Washington, it was the industrial heart of New York.
Union forces in Maine were militias, ill-equipped for winter. They were swept aside by the disciplined volley fire of the Royal Highland regiments.
The Atlantic blockade vanished. The Royal Navy did not just break the chain, they hunted down Union ships like wolves hunting sheep in the open ocean.
Southern ports reopened. Liverpool merchants flooded Charleston. Cotton flowed out. Modern Enfield rifles, heavy artillery, and British gold flowed in. Napoleon III made his move. He marched French troops to the Texas border to support the Confederacy, securing his puppet regime in Mexico. The Anaconda Plan was reversed. The North was being strangled. Cut off from trade, panic hit Wall Street. The greenback currency collapsed overnight. Desperate, Lincoln ordered a draft. But in New York, starving from the blockade, the draft riots of 1863 became a civil war within a war. The Battle of Gettysburg still happened, but the sides were different. Lee was supported by British Armstrong guns that outranged Union artillery by a mile. Union lines on Cemetery Ridge were not broken by a charge. They were pulverized by long-range bombardment before the rebel yell even began.
Defeat at Gettysburg did not end the war. Lincoln retreated to Philadelphia. The Union was not fighting to win anymore. It was fighting to exist.
1864 introduced a new horror: trench warfare. British engineers dug miles of fortifications around Washington, trapping the remaining Union defenders inside. British technology accelerated the killing. The Gatling gun was adopted by the British Army. They mowed down waves of desperate Union conscripts in Maryland. In the West, General Sherman was surrounded in Ohio, caught between Confederate cavalry from the South and Canadian infantry pushing down from Detroit. Tsar Alexander II sent his Baltic fleet to New York, but the Royal Navy was waiting. The Battle of Long Island was a massacre. With the Russian fleet destroyed, the British bombarded New York. Incendiary shells rained on Manhattan. The spire of Trinity Church collapsed into Wall Street. By winter of 1864, the United States was cut in half. The Confederacy controlled the South. The British held Maine and the Great Lakes. Lincoln suspended the Constitution, but morale was broken. He sent a telegram to Lord Palmerston. "Stop the bombardment. We are ready to talk." April 1865. Instead of Appomattox, the surrender happened in Philadelphia. The United States officially recognized the independence of the Confederate States of America. The Treaty of Toronto drew new borders. The Confederacy took everything south of the Mason-Dixon line. Britain took Maine and the Oregon Territory. A cold peace settled over the continent. Two rival nations separated by a heavily militarized border: the United States and the Confederate States. Slavery did not end. It evolved. With British pressure, the Confederacy passed the Manumission Acts, turning slaves into a permanent serf class. By 1880, the industrial race began. The North built factories underground to survive bombardment. The South built a massive agricultural empire. When Europe caught fire in 1914, America did not stay neutral. The North sided with Germany. The South sided with Britain and France. The Great War turned the Ohio River into the American Somme. Millions of soldiers died in the mud for mere inches of ground. Neither side could break the stalemate.
1917. The Union introduced a terrifying weapon, the land ironclad, primitive tanks that crushed Confederate trenches and terrified the British cavalry.
The armistice of 1918 changed nothing on the map. The borders remained frozen, but the hatred grew deeper. The North swore revenge for the humiliation. The Great Depression hit the industrialized North hardest. Unemployment reached 50%. A new radical party rose to power in Philadelphia, promising to restore American glory.
1941. The Second World War began. The Union allied with Nazi Germany. Their common enemy was the British Empire and its puppet, the Confederacy.
Union blitzkrieg tactics stunned the South. Tank divisions broke through Kentucky. For the first time in 80 years, Union troops marched into Richmond.
But the war was decided by science, not soldiers. In Chicago, Robert Oppenheimer led the Union's Project Vulcan. He was racing against British scientists in Canada.
August 6, 1945. A Union bomber took off from Ohio. The target was not Hiroshima. It was the Confederate capital, Atlanta. The explosion vaporized the city. The South surrendered unconditionally the next day. The Union had won, but the cost was a radioactive scar across Georgia. The Cold War began immediately. Britain and the Union stared at each other across the Atlantic. An iron curtain was built along the Mason-Dixon line. The 1960s. The Union became a militarized police state. Citizens had jobs and health care, but no freedom. Cameras watched every street corner in New York. The South remained an agricultural aristocracy, supported by British money. Wealthy plantation owners lived in luxury, while the underclass lived in poverty. The space race was personal. The Union wanted to put a missile platform on the moon. The Confederacy wanted to plant a flag. 1969. A Confederate astronaut from Texas took the first step. One small step for a man, one giant leap for the South. By the year 2000, the Internet had split. The UnionNet was a closed intranet, censored and monitored. The World Wide Web was forbidden. Today, in 2025, the map of North America looks like a broken mirror. The United States is a concrete industrial fortress. The Confederate States is a glossy, high-tech ethno-state. Glass skyscrapers in Atlanta rise above automated cotton fields. Texas declared independence from both in 1991. It stands alone as a rich oil republic, heavily armed and neutral. The West Coast belongs to the British Commonwealth. Cascadia is a peaceful, parliamentary dominion, watching the chaos of the East with pity. 160 years later, the cannons are silent, but the war never truly ended. Two Americas stare at each other, waiting for the spark. What if the South won? We might have avoided one civil war, only to trade it for a century of global conflict. History is fragile. One boat, one telegram, one decision. That is all that separates our world from theirs. Thanks for watching.